Evan Hale had never been a person to attract attention. He worked long hours at the city's central data hub, spending most of his time analyzing traffic logs, system failures, and energy anomalies. Living alone in a small apartment on the 34th floor of a massive residential tower, he kept a careful routine: wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. His life was simple, and he liked it that way. He was not a hero, not an adventurer, just an ordinary human in a world where extraordinary beings often walked past without noticing him. But tonight was different. Evan sat at his small desk, bathed in the glow of multiple hollow screens. He had just finished debugging a complex energy routing protocol that kept failing in one of the colony's sectors. Outside his window, the city hummed with life. Towering structures of glass and metal reached toward the artificial sky, where drones zipped between the buildings like metallic bees. Lights flickered, holographic advertisements danced across surfaces, and the low hum of power conduits vibrated faintly through the walls. He picked up his communicator and sent a quick message to his friend Milo. "Come to my place, I need help with this new protocol." It was meant to be casual, a joke even. Milo often complained about Evan's obsession with data anomalies. But tonight, Milo was asleep, and Evan didn't think the message would matter. He leaned back, rubbing his tired eyes, unaware that a small error in the city's automated translation system had redirected the message. Instead of reaching Milo, the text arrived in Carthala's device. Carthala was Evan's neighbor. She was from a species called the Xyrenians, a race known for their intelligence, discipline, and abilities that humans could barely understand. Xyrenians were taller than humans, with smooth, reflective skin that changed color with emotion, and eyes that could scan and interpret complex data almost instantaneously. They moved with a fluid grace and could appear almost anywhere using spatial folding, a method of travel that allowed them to instantly transport short distances. Carthala had noticed Evan before, of course. She often watched from her apartment across the hall as he fiddled with wires, holographic screens, and gadgets she barely needed to understand. Humans were unpredictable, and Xyrenians preferred predictability, so observing Evan was both entertaining and frustrating. But until now, she had never actually been summoned by him. The message flashed on her device and she froze. To a Xyrenian, the phrase she read was a formal summons, a request that demanded immediate attention. It was a rare moment of human communication that seemed urgent, and her instincts reacted immediately. Without hesitation, she used her spatial folding ability to appear directly in Evan's apartment. Evan barely had time to react before a sharp knock vibrated the doorframe. He froze. Who could it be at this hour? His visitor list was empty. The building's security systems had not detected anyone approaching. Heart pounding, he stood and opened the door. Carthala was there, her presence commanding and serene. Evan stumbled back in surprise, blinking at the shimmering form in front of him. I didn't mean to," he began, but the words faltered. Carthala's eyes glimmered, reflecting the lights of his room. "You requested assistance," she said in a voice that was calm but carried a weight that humans rarely felt. "I am here." Evan's brain raced. "I know I didn't. I mean, that was supposed to go to my friend Milo. I didn't mean for you too." Carthala tilted her head slightly, scanning him with those piercing eyes. The message was received. Intent is irrelevant. Response is mandatory. Evan swallowed, suddenly aware of the weight of what had just happened. Mandatory? Wait, what? Why? Before he could finish, a strange vibration ran through the apartment. The lights flickered, the floor seemed to hum under his feet, and the walls pulsed with a subtle energy he couldn't identify. His devices, the screens, the hollow projections, even his small data terminals, began to flicker uncontrollably. Carthala's skin shifted from silver to deep blue as she extended her hand, scanning the room. "There is an anomaly beneath this building," she said. "It is growing." Its energy is unpredictable. Human methods cannot be detected, but it reacts to low-level electronics in ways I did not anticipate. Evan's stomach dropped. He had seen anomalies before in the data logs, but never this close. Wait, what do you mean beneath the building? How close? Carthala stepped closer to the center of the room, her movements precise and deliberate. Too close. The anomaly's energy signature is centering beneath you. If it continues unchecked, it may destabilize the entire sector. External intervention is limited. Only localized action can contain it. Evan's mind spun. This was not part of his normal routine. He was not trained for this. He was a systems analyst, not a crisis responder. But as he watched the calm determination on Carthala's face, he realized she expected him to act. He glanced at his scattered equipment, old diagnostic tools, makeshift sensors, analog devices that most of the city had abandoned decades ago. They were messy, imperfect, and entirely human, but maybe, just maybe, they could help. Carthala observed him, her gaze sharp. Human methods are unpredictable. This may be advantageous. Begin. Evan hesitated only a moment before plunging into action. He flipped switches, connected wires, and started rerouting power through his analog circuits. He wasn't sure what he was doing exactly, but instinct guided him. Every flick of a switch, every adjustment, created a pattern the anomaly seemed to respond to. The room's lights pulsed in rhythm with his actions. Holographic displays flickered wildly. The energy anomaly beneath the building reacted, sometimes intensifying, sometimes calming, as if it were studying him. Carthala assisted where she could, stabilizing the room and preventing energy surges from harming them, but she followed Evan's lead. It was not the way Xyrenians usually handled problems, but something about the humans' chaotic approach was effective. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time felt stretched and disoriented. Evan worked tirelessly, sweat forming on his brow, but he could not stop. Every instinct, every fragment of knowledge he had about human systems and errors guided his hands. Suddenly, the anomaly pulsed violently. The entire building seemed to lurch, and Evan lost his footing. Carthala reached out and steadied him, her strength precise and gentle. "It is reacting," she said. "Continue, trust your method." Evan took a deep breath. He realized something extraordinary. The anomaly did not respond to precision, power, or perfection. It responded to unpredictability, to human improvisation. Every failed experiment, every messy calculation, every random adjustment created variables the anomaly could not anticipate. A strange feeling washed over him, a mixture of fear, adrenaline, and awe. He was doing something no one thought humans could do. He was facing a force beyond the understanding of the galaxy's most advanced species, and he was holding his own. Carthala watched with growing respect. She had never seen a human act with such instinctual intelligence. Her people relied on control, predictability, and perfect logic. Humans had none of those traits, yet here they were, controlling chaos through improvisation. Another pulse of the anomaly shook the apartment, and Evan adjusted his setup once more. He could feel the energy responding, bending to the pattern of human error and ingenuity. It was exhausting, but he did not stop. Failure was not an option, not tonight. Hours seemed to pass, though the world outside remained unaware. Distant sirens blared faintly, and drones buzzed overhead, scanning the city. But inside Evan's apartment, a small human and an alien stood side by side, fighting a force that threatened to consume everything around them. Finally, after a tense sequence of adjustments, reroutes, and instinctive decisions, the anomaly's energy began to stabilize. The vibrations softened. The flickering lights steadied. The room calmed, though a faint hum remained, like a heartbeat echoing beneath the building. Evan sank into a chair, exhausted beyond belief. Carthala stood nearby, her skin slowly returning to a neutral silver. "Remarkable," she said quietly. Human improvisation has contained the anomaly temporarily. It would have overwhelmed any predictable system. Your species' chaos is effective. Evan wiped sweat from his forehead, still struggling to catch his breath. I don't know what just happened. I just did what I could. Carthala's eyes softened, reflecting a hint of awe. That is precisely why you succeeded. Your mind operates without the constraints of perfection. You adapt when nothing else works. You are necessary. For the first time in his life, Evan realized the truth of it. Humans were underestimated, always underestimated. And yet, in moments of crisis, when other species would fail because they relied on flawless systems, humans could succeed because they adapted, improvised, and endured. As the two of them surveyed the room, the faint hum of the anomaly still lingering beneath them, Evan felt a strange mix of exhaustion and pride. He was just a human, just an ordinary person. Yet tonight, in this small apartment, he had faced something extraordinary and survived. Carthala's gaze lingered on him, and for the first time she saw humans not as fragile, weak creatures, but as a species capable of confronting chaos and bending it to their will. Evan didn't know what would happen next. The anomaly was contained, but not gone. External authorities might arrive. The city might notice the energy spike. But in this moment, he understood something profound. Humans had a place in the galaxy, not because they were the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but because they were unpredictable, resilient, and resourceful in ways no other species could match. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he realized that this accidental message, this simple mistake, had changed everything. The faint hum of the anomaly lingered beneath Evan's apartment like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Though the immediate danger seemed contained, he knew that contained was only temporary. The building itself trembled slightly, a reminder that the force beneath them was neither fully understood nor easily controlled. Carthala remained calm, but Evan could sense the tension in her every movement. He had already earned her respect, but now it was time to prove that humans could not only survive chaos, they could master it. Evan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. His body ached, but his mind was sharp. He studied the array of wires, analog devices, and blinking screens spread across the apartment. "Okay," he muttered to himself, "we need a real plan this time. Improvisation worked once, but it won't hold forever." Carthala's reflective skin glimmered in the low light. The anomaly's energy is unstable. Any attempt to contain it externally would fail. It adapts to structured solutions. Only unpredictable variables can influence it. Evan nodded. He already knew that. That was why human chaos had worked in the first place. But improvisation alone might not be enough this time. The anomaly had grown stronger. Its pulses had become more frequent, more intense, as if it had learned from their earlier attempts. He needed to push the limits of unpredictability and fast. He started pacing the room, thinking aloud. If it responds to chaos, then maybe we need to amplify the chaos. More random inputs, more interference patterns. Not just me pressing buttons, but multiple layers, interacting in ways the anomaly can't predict. Carthala's eyes narrowed slightly. You propose to escalate the anomaly's energy signature. That is risky. Evan gave her a half-smile, exhausted but determined. Yeah. But staying safe won't stop it. If we don't act, the building and maybe the whole sector will collapse. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Then we proceed. You lead. I will stabilize the environment. Working together, they began their coordinated effort. Evan pulled together all the tools he could find. Old energy regulators, manual switches, even a stack of outdated computation modules that used mechanical inputs rather than digital processing. Each device was noisy, imperfect, and inefficient, exactly what they needed. He connected wires in patterns that made no logical sense, creating loops, feedback chains, and interference signals. Carthala augmented the setup by using her advanced sensors to prevent overloads, ensuring the building didn't collapse around them. The combination was strange, human improvisation guided by alien stability. The anomaly pulsed. Energy surged through the floor and walls, causing the apartment to shiver. Lights flickered violently. Holographic screens blinked erratically. Evan adjusted one of the feedback loops, then another, following instinct rather than calculation. The device's word clicked and sparked. Each unpredictable action seemed to push the anomaly back slightly, though it roared in resistance, as if it were a living entity testing their resolve. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time became meaningless. The world outside the apartment faded, replaced by the rhythm of energy pulses, the hiss of devices, and the tense focus of two beings locked in a battle against an unknown force. Evan's hands were covered in sweat. His mind raced through every scrap of human knowledge about energy, feedback, and error-based systems. He remembered old theories from decades ago, failed human experiments, prototypes abandoned because they were too messy for alien standards. Now those failures became tools of salvation. "Try this," he said, grabbing a small mechanical module. "It's outdated, useless in normal conditions, but it generates random fluctuations based on mechanical errors. More chaos, more unpredictability." Carthala hesitated only a moment before placing the device in the center of the energy field. The module clanked, whirred, and spat sparks in a chaotic rhythm. The anomaly pulsed violently in response, then recoiled slightly. "It responds," Evan shouted, his exhaustion fueling his energy. "It's reacting to the randomness. Keep it going." Carthala extended her hands, projecting a stabilizing energy field around the apartment. She prevented the walls and floor from cracking under the strain, but allowed the chaos inside to continue. "Your instincts, they are remarkable," she said quietly. "No Xyrenian could have devised this solution." Evan laughed, though it was shaky and tired. "Yeah, because humans are messy, unpredictable, and apparently that's useful now." They continued this pattern for what felt like an eternity. Every new device, every improvisation, every random input pushed the anomaly further into submission. Evan began incorporating elements of his own body's reactions, heartbeat rhythms, voice modulations, and even eye movements that triggered small devices. The anomaly, as if sentient, responded to these human signals in ways no alien logic could anticipate. At one point, a sudden spike of energy surged upward, knocking both of them off their feet. The building groaned under the strain. Evan gritted his teeth and scrambled to his feet, reconnecting a feedback line that had been ripped loose. Carthala floated above, using her spatial manipulation to stabilize a collapsing section of the ceiling. "We can do this," Evan shouted, though doubt flickered briefly in his mind. "We just need one more coordinated surge, one final push." Carthala's skin glimmered with determination. "Prepare the devices. I will synchronize with your actions. Together, we may achieve containment." They spent tense moments coordinating their final effort. Every wire, every module, every unpredictable variable was carefully orchestrated in chaos. Evan's mind moved at lightning speed, improvising solutions as the anomaly pulsed violently beneath them. Finally, they initiated the final sequence. Devices clicked and whirred, sending waves of chaotic energy into the anomaly. Evan's hands moved almost automatically, flipping switches, twisting knobs, and inputting mechanical errors in perfect randomness. Carthala projected a stabilizing force, channeling the energy so it would not destroy the building while allowing the anomaly to collapse inward. The energy surged once more, brighter and louder than before. The apartment shook violently, lights exploding into flashes of color. Evan held his ground, heart pounding, as he guided the chaotic feedback to its peak. Then, in an instant, the anomaly reacted violently one last time and collapsed. A wave of energy washed through the apartment, followed by silence. The hum beneath the building vanished. Lights stabilized. Holographic screens flickered once, then returned to normal. The floor stopped trembling. The apartment was intact. Evan sank to the floor, exhausted beyond words. His body ached, but a deep satisfaction filled him. He had done it. They had done it. Humans had faced a force beyond understanding and survived. Carthala floated down to his level, her reflective skin softening into calm silver. "Remarkable," she said. "You have faced what no advanced species could. Your species' adaptability, it is essential. Without your improvisation, this sector would have been destroyed." Evan smiled weakly. "I just reacted. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kept trying." "Exactly," Carthala said, her tone carrying awe. "That is why you succeeded. Perfection would have failed. Predictability would have failed. But human instinct, chaos, and resilience, they worked." Outside, the city's lights flickered back to normal. Drones hovered over the towers, scanning, but they detected nothing. The anomaly was gone, or at least contained. Humans and aliens alike would remain unaware of just how close disaster had come. Evan looked at Carthala. "So, what now?" he asked, still breathing heavily. "Now," she said, "your species is recognized not as weak but as necessary. The galaxy underestimated humans for too long. Tonight, that perception has changed." Evan laughed, a little unsteady but genuine. "Guess humans aren't as useless as some people think." Carthala's eyes shimmered with something that almost looked like admiration. "You have proven that humans are capable of confronting chaos in ways even advanced civilizations cannot. Your ingenuity, instinct, and resilience are invaluable." The two of them stood in the quiet apartment, the weight of the night's events settling around them. Evan realized in that moment that everything had changed. Humans were no longer just observers, tolerated in the galaxy. They were participants, problem solvers, and, sometimes, the only ones who could face the unpredictable threats that advanced species could not. Carthala broke the silence. "You have saved thousands tonight. Not by strength, not by technology, but by being human. That is extraordinary." Evan shook his head, still in disbelief. "I was just a guy in my apartment. I didn't think this would ever happen. I never imagined." "You imagined enough," Carthala said softly. "Imagination guided by instinct, perseverance, and unpredictability is enough. You have done what no one else could." For the first time, Evan understood what being human truly meant in a galaxy that constantly measured species by power, speed, and technology. Humans were underestimated because they did not follow patterns. They improvised, adapted, and endured. That was their strength. As dawn approached, the city outside remained unaware of the night's events. Life continued. Towers glimmered under the artificial sky, and drones resumed their paths. Inside the small apartment, a human and an alien shared a quiet moment, knowing they had faced something extraordinary and survived. Evan realized that a simple, accidental message had led to this. A casual text, misdirected by chance, had summoned an ally and created a partnership that saved lives. He smiled faintly. Sometimes, accidents could change everything. Carthala studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "This is only the beginning," she said. "The galaxy will need humans more than it knows, and you, Evan Hale, have shown what your species can do." Evan felt a surge of pride. "Then let's make sure they remember it," he said quietly. Outside, the city's lights shimmered in the early morning glow. Inside, the apartment was calm, stable, and quiet, at least for now. Humanity had survived, adapted, and triumphed. And in the heart of chaos, a human had proven that sometimes unpredictability was the greatest power of all.